a grumpy bartender, and a sunshine tourist, strangers. Until a storm locks them in by 9:30, the sky over Windmere Beach looked like a bruise. Clouds pressed low over the water, thick and purple-black, swallowing the last of the sunset as if the ocean had offended them personally. Inside the breakwater, the bar glowed amber and steady, as if it had seen worse storms and refused to flinch. Shelley Prescott wiped down the already clean oak bar with the intensity of someone trying not to think too hard. The wood was old, her father's wood, sanded and resealed, still bearing the faint scars of 1,000 careless rings and cigarette burns. Friday night, early spring, pre-tourist season. She should have been grateful for the lull. Instead, the quiet made her restless. "Storm's gonna hammer us," muttered Eric from his stool, nursing his third beer. He was a fixture as permanent as the jukebox, gray beard, fisherman's cap, jacket that smelled of salt and diesel. "You boardin' up, Shell?" She glanced at the weather radar open on her phone. The swirls of angry color crawled toward their small North Carolina town with a sense of inevitability. "Not yet," she said. "Forecast says overnight worst. I'll pull the shutters before I lock up." "You could just close early," he said, hopeful. "Send everybody home." Shelley gave the room a sweeping look. 4 locals in total, 2 old guys playing pool badly. A middle-aged couple sharing a burger in the corner, their heads bent close together. Behind them, the TV above the bar murmured with the sound off. A weatherwoman gesturing at violence offshore. "Yeah," Shelley said. "Crowd control's overwhelming me." Eric snorted. "You'll get your circus soon enough. Memorial Day's comin'." That was the problem. The circus came, made a mess of things, and left. Shelley stayed and scrubbed stains out of the floor. The bell above the door jingled. She didn't look up at first, just said automatically, "Kitchen's closed, bar's open. Don't ask for a blended drink. And if you break a glass, you're dead to me." A bright laugh answered her. "Wow, welcome to Windmere, huh?" Shelley's head snapped up. The woman standing in the doorway looked like she'd brought the last of the sun in with her. Wind had tangled her blonde curls into wild spirals around her face, the ends damp from the rising mist outside. She wore a yellow raincoat unzipped over a soft white t-shirt, jeans hugging her hips, camera strap slung across her chest. Her cheeks held the warm flush of someone who spent a lot of time outside, and her eyes, green, sharp, curious, landed on Shelley like they were taking instant inventory. Tourist, Shelley thought, with the impatience she reserved for people who saw the town as an Instagram backdrop. But the thought bumped awkwardly against another one. "She's beautiful." The woman stepped inside, the bell chiming again as the door swung shut behind her. "Is that your hello speech? Because honestly, kind of iconic." "It's my don't make me regret unlocking the door speech," Shelley said. "You lost?" "Depends who you ask." The woman flashed a grin that felt like a challenge. "I'm Cameron." "Shelley." "Shelley," Cameron repeated, like she was trying the name on, seeing how it felt. "You got anything warm?" I walked down the boardwalk to experience local color, and the local color tried to blow me into the sea. Shelley lifted her chin toward the chalkboard. "Hot toddy, Irish coffee, mulled cider. Pick your poison." Cameron slid onto a bar stool, shrugging off her raincoat as she sat. The move tugged her t-shirt tight across her chest for a second. Shelley noticed and then pretended she absolutely hadn't. "Hot toddy," Cameron said. "Please, it feels like my bones are wet." "Can't see your bones from here," Shelley muttered, reaching for the whiskey and honey. "But I'll trust your medical opinion." Cameron laughed again, that quick, bright sound that seemed to make the bar lights feel warmer. "Do you harass all your customers, or just the ones who wander in right before the apocalypse?" "Depends how talkative they are," Shelley said. "Quiet people get peanuts. Chatty people get sarcasm. So this is a premium service." "Top-shelf personality," Shelley deadpanned. She set about building the drink with habitual efficiency. Steaming water, lemon wedge, cinnamon stick, honey dissolving amber gold at the bottom of the glass. She'd learned to make it from her dad in winters that seemed colder and simpler than this one. Back then, storms were just storms, not metaphors. "Is it always like this?" Cameron asked, glancing toward the front windows. Wind slapped rain sideways against the glass now, noisy but not yet violent. "Stormy? No." Shelley set the hot toddy down. "Moody? Yeah, coastal town, weather and people both." Cameron cupped the glass with both hands and inhaled. eyes closing for a second. Shelley watched her shoulders relax, tension easing. Something in Shelley softened without permission. "Wow," Cameron murmured after the first sip. "Okay, that's witchcraft. Secret recipe. If I told you, I'd have to drown you off the pier." Cameron's eyes sparkled over the rim. Kinky first date. Eric coughed on his beer. Shelley's ears went hot. For a moment, her practiced bar persona cracked, and she just stood there, trying to reset. This was the problem with tourists. They breezed in with no idea of the weight of things, tossing flirtation around like confetti. She picked up a bar towel like it was a shield. "Where you staying?" "Little Inn up the hill. Coral Crest," Cameron answered. The owner said this was the only bar worth walking to. The others were for people who like drinking from plastic, in her words, not mine. "Marla," Shelley said. She'd send her own mother here if she thought it meant a bigger tip. That sounds like a compliment. To her, it is. Cameron took another slow sip. "You're not from some big city slumming it in a seaside bar, are you, Shelley?" "Nope." "Born and raised?" Shelley's jaw tightened. "Pretty much," Cameron hummed thoughtfully. "I've never stayed anywhere more than 3 years. I can't imagine living in the same place my whole life." "Lucky you," Shelley said. Cameron studied her. "Is it unlucky?" Shelley didn't answer. The storm answered instead. A low roll of thunder offshore, the kind that sounded like distant furniture moving. By 10, the couple had left. By 10:15, the pool players had decided the storm gave them an excuse to bail on a game they were losing anyway. By 10:30, it was just Shelley, Eric, and Cameron, with the rain ramping up from background noise to full percussion. The TV's subtitles scrolled new warnings. Flash flood watch in effect. Coastal wind advisory. Shelley muted the sports channel and flipped to the local station, where a nervous-looking meteorologist gestured at a swirl of color off the coast. "Storm's changing track," he said, silent behind the captions. "Looks like Windmere's in for a direct hit after midnight. If you don't have to be out, stay home." Eric groaned. "Guess that's my cue." "You walking?" Shelley asked. He stood tossing some bills on the bar. "Truck's out back. If I don't make it home before the wind takes me, I leave my tackle box to you." "You leave me nothing smells like old bait," Shelley said, snatching up the money. "Go." He tipped his hat at her, then at Cameron. "Storm's prettier from inside, missy. Don't let this one lock up without you." Cameron gave him a friendly salute. "Yes, sir." The door opened, and a gust of cold, wet air chased him out. Shelley felt the bar sigh a little, the way it always did when a night settled into its last act. She looked at Cameron. "You should probably head back, too. That hill to the inn gets ugly when it floods." Cameron checked her phone. No signal. The little spinning wheel looked stubborn. "I'm guessing the Wi-Fi here is not extensive," Shelley snorted. "Our Wi-Fi's a rumor. Why?" "Rideshare's dead. My walking app says it's 8 minutes to the inn." She eyed the sideways rain. "In theory. In reality, that's a great way to fall into the drainage ditch and die," Shelley said. Cameron lifted her brows. "You have a very specific sense of humor, you know that? I'm not joking." Another crack of thunder rolled overhead, closer now. The window panes shivered in their frames. Shelley grabbed her keys from under the bar and tossed them toward Cameron. Cameron fumbled but caught them, eyes widening. "You trusting a stranger with your car?" "No." Shelley nodded toward the back. "There's a deadbolt on the inside of, the door. Lock it if anyone tries to come in. I'm just going to the office to check the sump pump. Last storm flooded the hallway. If we're stuck in here, I'm not doing it with swamp carpeting." Cameron relaxed, spinning the keyring on one finger. "Ah, so the hostage should guard the fortress." "Exactly." Shelley hesitated. "You want another drink?" "Depends." Cameron's smile sharpened. "Is it part of the premium sarcasm package, or extra?" Shelley rolled her eyes and reached for the whiskey. "I'm cutting you off if the power goes. You're too cheerful as it is." "I'm not cheerful," Cameron protested. "I'm resilient." "You're something," Shelley muttered. She poured half a measure this time. No sense getting the tourist drunk if there was even a chance she'd insist on leaving. Cameron accepted the glass with a mock salute, her fingers brushing Shelley's for a second. Warm, calloused surprisingly, not soft the way Shelley would have guessed. "Back in a minute," Shelley said, retreating to the hallway that led toward the office and the back door. The old bar's guts groaned around her. Pipes, wiring, wood expanding with the humidity. She flicked on the fluorescent light in the tiny office and checked the narrow closet where the sump pump sat. The little machine chugged along like a stubborn old man. Good. At least they wouldn't be bailing water by hand. On her way back, the lights flickered. She stopped, counted under her breath. 1, 2, 3. The power went out. Darkness slammed into the hallway, thick and immediate. The emergency lights kicked on a second later, low and reddish, turning everything ominous. From the bar, Cameron's voice floated through the dark. "Is that supposed to happen?" "Welcome to Windmere," Shelley called back. "Power company thinks storms are optional." She grabbed the battery lantern from its hook in the hallway and clicked it on. The beam carved a path through the gloom, turning dust motes into constellations. When she re-entered the bar, Cameron was standing near the jukebox, phone in hand, flashlight on. The glow lit her from below, all long shadows and bright eyes. Outside, the storm had gone from angry to outright feral. Rain slammed the windows, and wind howled around the building's corners. "Well," Cameron said, her voice a notch higher than before, "this is atmospheric." "We've got a generator," Shelley said. "Small one. Enough to keep the fridges running and a couple of lights." She went behind the bar, set the lantern down, then disappeared again through the side door that led out back. The wind tried to shove her around the alley. She shoved back, flipped the generator housing open, and hit the starter. For a second, nothing happened. Then the machine coughed and roared to life, sending a small vibration up through her boots. When she came back in, a few ceiling fixtures flickered on with a weak yellow hue. Music, however, stayed dead. She could live without it. Cameron lowered her phone. "Look at you, Storm Queen." "Don't get poetic," Shelley said, but she felt a sliver of pride anyway. The bar might be old and temperamental, but when the power went out, people trusted the breakwater more than their own houses. That had been true in her dad's time. She was determined to keep it that way. Thunder cracked again, so loud the bottles behind the bar rattled. Cameron flinched just slightly. "You okay?" Shelley asked. "I love storms," Cameron said too quickly. "They're dramatic." "You don't have to be brave," Shelley said. "Just honest." Cameron opened her mouth, closed it, then laughed once, sharply. "You always call people out like that?" "Occupational hazard. Bartenders are bullshit detectors with liquor licenses." Cameron's smile tilted. "Fair. I'm not afraid exactly. Just keyed up. My brain does the whole, what if the roof peels off and we're all sucked into the void thing." "That's not how roofs or voids work," Shelley said. "You know what I mean." Shelley grabbed another blanket from under the bar, old habit from winter storms, the kind that kept customers stranded till dawn. She tossed it to Cameron. "Here, for your overactive imagination." Cameron caught it against her chest. "You keep blankets in a bar?" "You don't." "Is this a hospitality thing or a personal trauma thing?" "Both," Shelley said. "Sit. You're not going anywhere till that dies down, and it's only getting worse." Cameron hesitated, glancing at the door. The glass was now a solid sheet of water, the outside world smeared into moving gray. "You think I can't make it to the inn?" she asked. "I think I don't want to have to fish you out of a culvert with a pool skimmer," Shelley said. "Phone's dead. Power's sketchy. Streets flood when the drains back up. We're locked in, Sunshine." Cameron's brows rose. "Sunshine, is that my official bar nickname? Don't like it?" "No, I love it. I'm just not used to being typecast so quickly." "Can't help what you radiate," Shelley said. Their eyes met across the lantern light. For a second, the storm seemed very far away. The deadbolt on the front door clicked with a heavy finality. Shelley turned the key and slid it into her back pocket. "Hey," Cameron protested lightly. "I didn't agree to imprisonment." "Too late." Shelley tapped a handwritten sign to the glass. Closed. Storm. "You're safer in prison than out there." Cameron wrapped the blanket around her shoulders and returned to the bar stool. The blanket was navy with frayed edges, soft from 100 washes. It had once been on the couch in Shelley's dad's office, where she'd fallen asleep during late-night inventory checks as a kid. "You do this often?" Cameron asked, watching Shelley move with efficient purpose, checking windows, securing the side door, turning off everything not on the generator circuit. "Storm lock-ins?" Shelley shrugged. "Couple times a year. Used to be a whole thing. People would bring cards, board games, their own snacks. Dad would call it a hurricane party, even when it was just a tropical storm. He sounds fun, Cameron said. He was, Shelley said simply. What happened? Heart attack, Shelley replied, just as simply. 4 years ago, Cameron winced. I'm sorry. Yeah, Shelley said. Me too. For a minute, the only sound was the rain. It hit the roof like it was trying to punch through. Is that why you stayed? Cameron asked softly. For the bar? Shelley leaned her hands on the counter, head tipped back, staring at the ceiling as if the answer might be written there. You ask a lot of questions. I work in stories, Cameron said. Occupational hazard. You started it with the bullshit detector thing. I didn't start anything, Shelley muttered, but the fight had gone out of it. Yeah, I stayed for the bar. Somebody had to. Mom's across town. She hated this place. My brother moved to Raleigh. I couldn't leave. Couldn't? Cameron's voice was gentle, not pushing, but inviting. Shelley dropped her gaze. He put everything into this. 25 years behind this counter. The mortgage, the repairs, the double shifts. You don't just walk away from that. You could, Cameron said. People do. Maybe other people can, Shelley said. I don't know how. The honesty surprised even her. Maybe it was the storm, or the lantern light, or the way Cameron listened like the words mattered. Cameron took a sip of her drink, eyes thoughtful over the rim. My dad's the opposite. When things started getting messy with my mom, he left. New city, new job. He called it a fresh start, but it mostly felt like a clean exit. I grew up believing roots were traps. Motion was safer. How'd that work out for you? Shelley asked. Cameron stuffed the edge of the blanket under her hands, knuckles whitening briefly. Depends on the day. Some days, waking up somewhere new feels like exactly what my brain needed. Other days, it feels like I'm a ghost in my own life. Yesterday, I had a panic attack in a rental car because I couldn't remember the word for the town I was driving toward. Wind slammed hard against the front of the building. Somewhere outside, something metallic clanged and scraped. You tell your followers that? Shelley asked. Cameron's mouth quirked, hollow. Hell no. They get cliff views and coffee picks. I keep the existential dread off the grid. Sounds exhausting. It is, Cameron admitted. But if I stop moving, I have to admit I'm not sure what I'm doing. Their eyes met. The storm roared like static around the bar, but between them, things were very quiet. Maybe. That's allowed, Shelley said. You always this encouraging? Cameron teased weakly. Don't get used to it, Shelley said. Might be temporary brain damage from generator fumes. A laugh slipped out of Cameron, small but real. You're not what I expected from a small-town bartender. Yeah? What did you expect? Corny accent and a bottle of moonshine. I expected someone who'd been worn down into politeness, Cameron said. You're sharp. Sharp things can cut, Shelley said. I noticed, Cameron replied. But there was no accusation in it. Only weird respect. Lightning flashed, bright enough to bleach the bar in electric white. Half a beat later, thunder cracked overhead like the sky had split. This time, Cameron startled hard enough that the glass in her hand sloshed. Shelley set her own glass down. You ever ridden out a proper coastal storm before? Desert kid, Cameron said. Our big weather event is, it rained for more than 5 minutes. Right. Shelley circled the end of the bar and nodded toward the small cluster of booths along the side wall, away from the glass front. Come sit over here. Less chance of the window exploding and decapitating you. Cameron blinked. That's comforting. Said less chance, not zero. Manage expectations, sunshine. She grabbed a couple more blankets from the storage cabinet and a deck of cards, then gestured with her chin. Well? Cameron followed her, blanket trailing like a cape. She slid into the booth opposite Shelley, the table between them narrow enough that their knees bumped. They both pretended not to notice and failed at it. So, Cameron said, as Shelley shuffled the deck with the ease of long practice. You always trap strangers in here during storms? Only the irritating ones. Irritating, Cameron pressed a hand to her chest. I'm delightful. You talk a lot. You listen a lot, Cameron countered. That's suspicious. Poker? Shelley asked. I don't know how to play, Shelley stilled. Seriously? Card games weren't a big thing in my house, Cameron said. You gonna teach me, Storm Queen? There it was again, that little nickname, thrown like a pebble into a pond. Ripples. Shelley fought a smile and lost. Fine, but if you're bad at it, I reserve the right to mock you for the rest of the night. Deal, Shelley dealt. All right, basics first. As she explained the rules, Cameron watched her hands more than the cards. Shelley's fingers were capable, a little rough, nails short and uneven from years of work. A faint scar cut across the knuckle of her index finger. Another traced a white line at the base of her thumb. She'd probably call them bar stories, the same way old fishermen called missing fingers accidents. Where'd you get that one? Cameron asked, touching her own thumb in unconscious mirror. Shelley glanced down. Glassware accident. New hire stacked the racks wrong. Whole stack came down. I caught it before it hit the floor, but I wasn't fast enough to get my hand out. You saved the glasses instead of your skin, Cameron said. That's dedication. It was a busy Saturday, Shelley said. We needed the glassware. Cameron shook her head. You and I have very different definitions of need. Clearly, Shelley said. Now stop distracting me and learn how to lose at poker. The first hand, Cameron folded too early. The second, she stayed in with nothing and lost everything. By the third, Shelley had her pegged. You do this thing with your mouth when you're bluffing, Shelley said, leaning back. What thing? Cameron demanded, indignant. It twitches on the left. Shelley mimed it. Like that. You look like you're trying not to smile. That's rude, Cameron said. Also unfair. You're a professional people watcher. Excuses are the last refuge of the losing, Shelley said. Another flash of lightning lit the bar. Thunder followed almost immediately. The generator dimmed for a heartbeat, then steadied. Shelley cataloged the noise, the flicker, the tremor of the building. Old instincts. Check for leaks, wait for the worst hit, hope the roof holds. Cameron noticed the way her gaze swept the ceiling. You okay? Just listening, Shelley said. Storm's sitting right on top of us. Feels weird, Cameron said quietly. Like we're in the only lit-up bubble in the world right now. We kind of are, Shelley replied. Most of the town shuts down completely. People hunker in their houses. We're the only idiots who stay open this late unless it's a real hurricane. Why? Shelley shrugged. Because someone might need it. Cameron's brows furrowed. You mean like me? Shelley's chest did a weird little stutter. Did you need it? I didn't know I did till I got here, Cameron said. The cards sat forgotten between them, a half-dealt hand. You know what I mean, Cameron added quickly. Not in a magical destiny way. Just, sometimes you walk into a place and the air feels like it's not lying to you. That's rare. You think bars don't lie? Shelley snorted. This place has more stories than the town hall. Yeah, but they're honest lies, Cameron said. You know everyone is exaggerating. Instagram lies are worse. They're meant to be believed. You make Instagram lies for a living, Shelley pointed out. Used to, Cameron corrected. Shelley's eyes narrowed. Used to? Cameron exhaled slowly, shoulders sinking against the booth. I took a break. Told my followers I was recalibrating. What I really meant was I was 3 meltdowns and 1 minor health scare away from burning my entire online life to the ground. What happened? Shelley asked. Cameron stared at the cards, tracing the edge of the deck with her finger. Brand deals, content calendar, always on DMs, algorithm anxiety. Pick your poison. It doesn't sound serious when you say it out loud. But my heart didn't get the memo. I thought I was having a heart attack in a grocery store aisle because a video underperformed. It was just a panic attack. Doctor sent me home with breathing exercises and a recommendation for therapy. And I ghosted my therapist after 3 sessions, Cameron admitted. Booked a ticket instead, East Coast road trip. 1 bag, 1 camera, no sponsorships. Just me and the road, spontaneous, brave, finding myself. That's what I told everyone. And what's the truth? Shelley asked. Cameron met her eyes. For once, her smile was nowhere to be seen. I was running. I didn't know where from until I'd been on the road 3 weeks, and realized I'd left every single person who actually cared about me on red. There it was, the soft underbelly, exposed. I'm not going to say I get it, Shelley said slowly, because our lives are pretty opposite, but I know the feeling of not knowing how to do anything except the one thing you've always done. Even when it's hurting you, Cameron's gaze sharpened. That's this bar for you? Some days, Shelley's voice went quieter. Other days, it's the only thing that makes sense. Depends on which ghost is loudest. Ghost? My dad. The idea of who I'm supposed to be. The town's expectations. Take your pick. They sat in the humming half-light, storm battering at their sanctuary. Shelley, Cameron said softly. What? Can I ask you something you don't have to answer? You've been doing that all night, Shelley said. What's one more? Have you ever wanted something that didn't fit here? Cameron's fingers tapped a restless rhythm against the table. Not, oh, it'd be nice to travel someday, but something your life doesn't make room for. Shelley's first impulse was to deflect with a joke. Instead, she found her gaze drawn to Cameron's mouth, the soft curve, the faint indentation at the top lip. She swallowed. Yeah, she said. Cameron's breath hitched, just a little. Like what? Shelley tapped the deck, spine straight. You first. Cameron blinked, then laughed under her breath. All right, fair. She stared down at her own hands. Okay, so, full confession. I've dated a lot of people. Guys, girls. Mostly half relationships that fit between trips. Easy ones. No one who expected me to stay long enough to learn my worst moods. And? Shelley asked. And I realized, Cameron said. The words coming slowly, like she'd never said them out loud. I don't actually want easy. I want someone who sees all the unflattering angles. Who knows that the cheerful road trip girl also cries on the floor of hotel showers. Someone who'll call me on my crap, but also sit in the passenger seat and eat gas station snacks with me at 2 a.m. That's specific, Shelley said, feeling a strange mix of amusement and something heavier. I had one almost thing like that, Cameron said. She lived in Portland. We did this on and off long-distance dance for a year. Every time I thought about moving there, my chest locked up. Every time I thought about letting go, it did the same thing. So I did nothing. She got tired of waiting and chose someone who could show up in person. You still talk? Shelley asked. No. Cameron fiddled with the corner of a card. I stalk her Instagram sometimes. She looks happy. I'm happy for her. And also, not. That's allowed, Shelley said. Wind whistled through some gap in the roofline, a long, low sound. The lantern threw soft shadows across Cameron's face, deepening the hollows under her cheekbones. So yeah, Cameron said, that's the thing that doesn't fit. I keep moving, but I want something rooted, which sounds suspiciously like your nightmare. Shelley's lips twitched. Roots aren't my nightmare. Being stuck is. What's the difference? Roots feed you, Shelley said, surprising herself. Stuck just holds you in place while you dry out. Cameron studied her. You got roots, or are you stuck, Shelley? Depends on the night. Shelley held her gaze. Tonight, I don't feel stuck. Because of the storm? Cameron asked. Because of you, Shelley didn't say. Instead, she shrugged one shoulder. Because I've got someone losing at cards to entertain me. Oh my God, Cameron groaned. You ruined the moment. Good, Shelley said. Moments are for wine commercials. You are impossible. And you keep talking to me, Shelley pointed out. Maybe I'm a masochist, Cameron said. Maybe, Shelley agreed. Their knees brushed under the table. This time, neither of them pulled back. The storm crept from midnight toward 1 a.m., thickening into that strange timelessness that only exists when sleep is clearly not happening and there's nowhere else to be. They abandoned poker for bullshit, the card game, appropriately named for the level of lying it required. Cameron turned out to be terrible at lying in increments, but excellent at total chaos. Shelley kept having to stop laughing long enough to call bullshit. With enough authority, at some point Shelley grabbed a bag of pretzels and a jar of pickles from behind the bar. Gourmet storm cuisine, she announced. Cameron bit into a pretzel, then a pickle, then made a face. This is objectively disgusting, and yet I can't stop. Salt helps the body process stress, Shelley said. Science. You made that up. Maybe. The TV stayed off. The radio was just static. It was just them and the weather and the old building holding its breath. Tell me, something true, Cameron said suddenly. Something you've never told a tourist. No, Shelley said automatically. Coward. Shelley narrowed her eyes. You first. I gave you my panic attack grocery story, Cameron protested. That was work trauma, Shelley said. Tell me something you don't put in captions. Rude, Cameron muttered, but she thought about it. The storm pounded against the walls like a drum. Finally, she said, Okay, true fact. I don't know what my life looks like after this trip. I didn't buy a return flight. My stuff's in storage. My roommate thinks I'm coming back in June. and I haven't decided if that's true yet. Shelley frowned. Where's back? Phoenix, Cameron said. Strip malls, scorching heat, cactus silhouettes, my mom's constant texts. Home, basically. You don't want to go. I don't know, Cameron said. Part of me craves going back, collapsing on my own couch, getting a 9-to-5 job that doesn't involve strangers yelling at me because the free giveaway only included 3 items. Another part of me would rather eat sand. Shelley snorted. Sand's got fiber. You're deflecting, Cameron said. Your turn, Shelley sighed, rubbing at an invisible spot on the table. Fine. Something true I don't tell tourists. She inhaled. I applied to a culinary program in Asheville once. Cameron perked up. You cook? Not just greasy bar food, Shelley said dryly. My dad taught me the basics. Then I started messing around. Real food. I used to dream about turning this place into something more. Gastropub, small plates, seasonal menu. Then Dad got sick. Then he died. I got in, paid the deposit. And I never went. Why not? Cameron's voice was very soft now. Who was going to run the bar? Shelley asked. Mom wasn't. She begged me not to throw my life away on some city pipe dream. My brother said, someone's got to stay. The regulars toasted me at the wake and said, you'll keep the place going, right, Shelley? And I kept hearing my dad say, take care of the bar, kiddo. It's our name on the sign. You could have gone, Cameron said quietly. Maybe. Shelley watched the lantern flame flicker. But I didn't. I stayed. And every year that goes by, I tell myself it would be harder to leave now, so what's the point of thinking about it? That's you stuck, Cameron said. Not rooted. Maybe, Shelley repeated. Or maybe I'm just a coward too. Cameron flashed a quick, sharp look. You are not a coward. I didn't go, Shelley said. You didn't abandon your grieving family and the business your dad built with his bare hands, Cameron said. That may not be the life you wanted, but it's not cowardice. Shelley's throat tightened. You don't get to call it noble just because you're afraid of sitting. Still, Cameron flinched. The words had come out harsher than Shelley intended, and she saw them land like a slap. Forget it, Shelley said quickly. I'm just tired. No, Cameron said, but her eyes had gone defensive. You're right. I'm afraid of stillness. I'm trying to figure it out, okay? I didn't mean to romanticize your whatever this is. This? Shelley's voice snapped. This is a life, Cameron. It's not glamorous, but it's not a cautionary tale for your next blog post. That's not what I'm not your quirky small-town character development arc, Shelley barreled on, something ugly and old rising at the back of her throat. You don't get to come in here, poke around my choices like they're an aesthetic, and then drive off into the sunrise with a new sense of purpose. The words hung between them, sharp as broken glass. Cameron's eyes went wide, then shuddered. Her jaw clenched. She gathered the blanket around her more tightly, like armor. Wow, she said finally. Okay, you know what? That's fair. I was doing that. At least a little. Shelley opened her mouth, then shut it again. They'd veered onto a ledge, and she wasn't sure where the ground was anymore. You're not a side character, Cameron said, voice controlled. I get that. Because if I'm honest, I've spent a lot of my life pretending I'm the main character in everyone else's story. It's easier than dealing with my own. She pushed the cards into a neat pile with precise movements. And for the record, I know this isn't content. I haven't filmed a thing since I got to Windermere. My followers think I'm in Charleston right now. Why? Shelley asked, thrown. Because I didn't want to share this, Cameron said simply. Whatever this is. She gestured between them, the storm, the dim bar. It feels mine, private, and my life doesn't have a lot of private left. Shelley's anger faltered, out of place next to that admission. Guilt crept in, slow and prickly. Cameron, she started. Don't, Cameron said, forcing a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. You were right. You don't owe me anything. We're strangers who happen to be locked in together during a freak storm. In the morning, you'll go back to your rooted or stuck life, and I'll go back to running or whatever it is I'm doing. No harm, no foul. Another crack of thunder shook the building like punctuation. Shelley stared at her, at the set of her shoulders. Too straight now. She remembered the earlier softness, the grocery store panic, the deliberately unposted truth. They weren't strangers. Not really, not anymore. She exhaled slowly. I was an ass. Cameron shrugged one shoulder. You were honest. I was both, Shelley said. And I'm sorry, I don't always know how to turn it down. The grumpiness, Cameron asked, lips twitching despite herself. The defensiveness, Shelley corrected. I'm used to people treating this town and this bar like a movie set. It's easier to push them away before they leave than be surprised when they do. Something sparked behind Cameron's eyes. So you pre-reject people. I set realistic expectations, Shelley said. For loneliness, Cameron said. That too, Shelley admitted quietly. The wind keened around the eaves like it agreed. Cameron's expression softened. Okay, here's a truce proposal. You stop assuming I'm trying to turn you into content, and I'll stop acting like your life is a lesson about choices. Deal? Shelley searched her face. You always negotiate like this? Only with women I'm stuck in bars with during extreme weather events, Cameron said. Shelley huffed out a laugh, tension easing. Deal. They shook on it, hands warm and firm. Neither of them let go right away. When they did, the space between them felt charged in a different way. Less defensive, more dangerous. The truce sat between them like a third person in the booth, quieter than the storm, louder than either of them wanted to admit. Shelley gathered the cards. All right, new game. Lower emotional stakes, higher humiliation potential. Cameron wiped her palms on the blanket. What did you have in mind? Strip poker. Shelley choked on absolutely nothing. Jesus, sunshine. Kidding, Cameron said, but there was a gleam in her eyes that made it only half a joke. We're doing questions, Shelley said briskly, before her brain could follow that particular mental image anywhere. 1 for 1. You can pass once per round. No follow-up interrogation allowed. Rules, lawyer, Cameron murmured. Fine, you go first. Why me? You're the one who wants lower emotional stakes, Cameron said. Prove it. Shelley thought for a second. Okay, what's your go-to comfort food when your life is falling apart? That's lower emotional stakes, Cameron said. Rookie. Answer the question. Cameron smiled, a little sheepish. Mac and cheese. The boxed neon orange kind. I can eat an entire pot by myself and still hate myself afterward, which is part of the ritual. Respectable, Shelley said. Starch and self-loathing. Classic combo. Okay, my turn. Cameron tapped her chin. What's something small that would make your day better, but you never bother doing it? Shelley was not expecting that. That's not small talk level. Lower emotional stakes doesn't mean meaningless, Cameron said. Come on. Shelley drummed her fingers on the table. Fine, breakfast. Cameron blinked. That's it. I usually skip it, Shelley said. Roll out of bed, coffee, open up. By the time I realize I'm hungry, it's 3 p.m. and I'm eating fries over the trash can like some kind of alley raccoon. Cameron's mouth curled, fond. You deserve better than raccoon fries. You sound like a self-help book. You deserve better than raccoon fries is actually a great title, Cameron said. I'd click on that article. Of course you would, Shelley muttered. The storm roared again, wind going higher, a weird almost howl threading through it. Cameron shivered, tugging the blanket up. Okay, your turn. Hit me with something truly shallow. All right, Shelley leaned back, considering her. What's the worst haircut you've ever had? Oh God, Cameron groaned, dropping her face into her hands for a moment. 9th grade, pixie cut. I told the stylist I wanted to look like Natalie Portman in Closer. I came out looking like a baby owl that had lost a fight with a lawnmower. I would pay money to see that, Shelley said. I burned every photo, Cameron said. You will never find evidence. Challenge accepted, Shelley murmured. Cameron's eyes narrowed. Okay, now I'm going in. What's the last thing that made you really, really laugh? Like, embarrassingly hard. The answer was out of Shelley's mouth before she could edit it. You mispronouncing Sazerac like it was a skin condition. Cameron's jaw dropped. That was one time, and I was tired. Also, I'd never seen that word written down before. You called it a Sazerac, Shelley said, like a Pokemon. To be fair, that sounds like a Pokemon that could absolutely kill you, Cameron said. Shelley's lips curved. The memory of Cameron earlier, cheeks pink, earnestly asking if the Sazerac was sweet or bitter, sparked unexpected warmth in her chest. Anyway, Cameron said, I accept being your recent comedy highlight. My ego can take it. Silence settled again, thicker now, but less strained. A good kind of quiet. The kind that comes after the truth gets aired out and doesn't run screaming. Lightning licked the sky again, visible through the narrow gap in the front door's frame. Thunder followed almost instantly, the sound cracking right on top of them. The bar shuddered. Something in the ceiling creaked ominously. Shelley's head snapped up. Years of storm seasons had trained her to parse noises quickly. That wasn't just rain and wind. That was something heavier. "Stay here," she said, sliding out of the booth. "Why, what?" "Just stay," she repeated, already moving. She circled behind the bar, grabbed the flashlight again, and headed for the back hallway, lantern in the other hand. The narrow corridor smelled like damp wood and cleaning supplies. She listened, trying to triangulate the sound. There, near the back storage room, a hollow drip. "Not you," she muttered. She pushed open the storage door. The small, cluttered room swam into light. Boxes of liquor, crates of glassware, a broken neon sign her dad had never gotten rid of. And in the far corner, where the roof seam always looked just a little suspect, a thin stream of water was sneaking down the wall, gathering at the base in a growing puddle. Shelley swore under her breath. Every damn time. She set the lantern down, rolled up her sleeves, and dug out the plastic tub she kept for exactly this situation. It was already warped from age and use. She shoved it under the leak, water pattering into it with an obnoxious plink. "How's it looking?" Cameron's voice came faintly from the hallway. "Just a leak," Shelley called back. "Nothing dramatic." She heard footsteps. Before she could protest, Cameron appeared in the doorway, blanket wrapped like a makeshift cloak, hair frizzing adorably around her face in the humidity. "I told you to stay," Shelley said. "And I told you I don't listen," Cameron replied. "You okay?" "I'm not melting," Shelley said. "It's fine." Cameron stepped into the little room, careful not to kick the tub. "This room smells like my grandma's attic." "That's the highest compliment this place has gotten all year," Shelley said. Cameron's gaze slid over the stacked boxes. The notes scribbled in Shelley's blocky handwriting, inventory lists, reminders, sarcastic comments about suppliers. She noticed the small shelf against the side wall, old framed photos, a couple of faded certificates, a Polaroid pinned under a magnet on the mini fridge. She drifted toward it, drawn like a moth. "Hey," Shelley said, more sharply than she meant. "That's..." Too late. Cameron's eyes had already landed on the main photograph. A younger Shelley, maybe 20, grinning wide, hair longer and looser, lifting a mug of beer toward the camera. Beside her, a bearded man in his 50s with laugh-wrinkled eyes and a wide, familiar smile, had his arms slung around her shoulders. "The legendary dad," Cameron said softly. Shelley's chest pinched. "Yeah. You look happy," Cameron added. "Lighter." "Old picture," Shelley said, jaw tight. "Pre-mortgage documents and leaky roofs." There was no accusation in it, just fact. But Cameron turned, brows drawn. "You still smile." "Sometimes," Shelley said. "Usually when tourists mispronounce cocktails." Cameron's eyes flicked to another photo, Shelley behind the bar, mid-shake with a cocktail shaker, laughing at something off-camera. In the background, balloons and a grand reopening banner. "That when you took over?" Cameron asked. "Yeah," Shelley said. "We had to close for 6 months after he passed. Permits, estate stuff, repairs. That was the night we reopened. Whole town showed up like it was a wedding." "In a way it was," Cameron said. "You in the bar, till death do you part." "That's a hell of a thing to say," Shelley muttered, but her voice was more fond than annoyed. Cameron shifted her focus to the Polaroid pinned to the fridge. It was newer, faded at the edges from sun. Shelley sat on the bar's front steps, head down, looking at her phone, sunlight catching in her hair. The shot was candid, the angle slightly tilted. "Who took that one?" Cameron asked. Shelley almost said dad, out of habit, then caught herself. My brother. It was a test shot. He was playing with this old instant camera he found at Mom's house." "You kept it," Cameron said. Shelley shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "I like knowing what I look like to other people." "Sometimes." She regretted the words as soon as they fell out. They sounded too raw, too revealing. But Cameron just nodded slowly, like she understood. "Most of the time, I only see myself through the lens I'm curating," she said. "Photos I pose for, videos I edit. It's this weird loop. I start behaving like the person I want the audience to see. After a while, I forget there's anything else." "And you hate that," Shelley guessed. Cameron's laugh was brittle. Understatement of the century. The tub under the leak plinked steadily. You do realize, Shelley said, there's no one here to curate for. Yeah, Cameron said, looking at her instead of the photos now. That's why I'm still here. The narrow room felt smaller all of a sudden. The storm outside, the dim light, the closeness. Shelley could see the flecks of gold in Cameron's green irises, the way a freckle on her left cheek almost made a heart shape. She could smell her, rain, whiskey, a faint trace of some citrusy lotion. Cameron swallowed, eyes darting briefly to Shelley's mouth and back up. The moment stretched, taut as a wire. Shelley's fingers curled into her palms. It would be so easy, too easy to close the distance, to fit her hand against Cameron's jaw, thumb brushing that heart-shaped freckle, and see if she tasted like honey and storm air. Shelley, Cameron said, barely more than a whisper. Speakers somewhere in the main bar crackled, making them both jump. The generator hiccuped, then caught. The spell snapped. I should check the front again, Shelley said quickly. Her voice came out rough. Make sure the windows aren't bowing. Cameron nodded too fast. Yeah, totally. Structural integrity. Important. They walked back down the hall, not quite touching, not quite avoiding each other either. The bar looked exactly the same as they'd left it, minus a few more rain streaks on the glass. Front's fine, Shelley said gruffly. Should hold through the worst of it. Good, Cameron said. Her hands were shoved into the blanket now, knuckles pressing against the inside seam. Because I'd hate to die before I find out if you're actually good at anything besides making hot toddies and existential bar speeches. Shelley seized the rope of banter like a lifeline. And you want to live long enough to mispronounce 3 more cocktails at least. Ambitious life goals. Cameron slid back into the booth and exhaled slowly, tension bleeding from her shoulders. What time is it? 12:40, Shelley said, checking her watch. You fading? Little bit, Cameron admitted. Time zones are weird. My body still thinks it's 2 hours earlier, but my brain is like, nope, storm o'clock. You can crash in the office if you want, Shelley said. Cameron blinked. Is that allowed? You think I'm going to make you trek back to the inn the second the rain slows down? Shelley frowned. What, do you think I'm a monster? I don't know, Cameron said. You did threaten to drown me off the pier earlier. Only if you steal my secret hot toddy recipe, Shelley said. This is different. Cameron hesitated. Where are you going to sleep? Couch, Shelley said. Done it before. Not my first overnight marathon. Cameron chewed her lip. Won't your mom freak out if she hears you got stuck here? She'd be more impressed that I let someone else in, Shelley said. I've done solo storm nights in this place. This is an upgrade. A faint smile tugged at Cameron's mouth. Wow, high praise. Don't let it go to your head, Shelley said. I already did, Cameron replied. They ended up back in the booth anyway, sleep postponed by the weird, liminal energy that neither of them knew what to do with. Cameron lay sideways along her side of the bench now, head propped against the wall, blanket cocooning her legs. Shelley sat with one arm resting along the back of the seat, watching the lantern's reflection shiver in the half-full whiskey glasses. Tell me a secret, Cameron said suddenly, voice looser with tiredness. We already did the question game, Shelley said. Those were medium lies, Cameron said. I want a deep cut. Absolutely not. You can't tell me about culinary school and dead dads, and then act like that was the limit, Cameron argued. There's clearly more in there. You're very demanding for a storm refugee. Consider it payment for my presence, Cameron said. I boosted your bar's ambiance by at least 20% the second I walked in. Shelley huffed. Fine. But if I answer, you have to answer something you really don't want to, too. That's the toll. Deal, Cameron said too fast. Shelley thought for a long moment. The storm filled the silence, steady now, like a heartbeat. I almost sold the bar last year, she said finally. Cameron's eyes widened. What? I didn't put it on the market or anything, Shelley said quickly. But I talked to a guy. Developer. He wanted to buy up this block, put in a boutique hotel and an elevated dining experience. She said the last words with open contempt. The breakwater would have gone, Cameron asked. Yeah, Shelley said. He wanted to keep the name, though. Said it had brand equity. Her mouth twisted like it tasted bad. New bar in the Pope lobby, same sign outside. Same location, new guts. No Shelley. What stopped you? Cameron's voice was hushed, like they were sharing a secret with the storm. My mom, Shelley said. She heard about it somehow. Came down here in her robe at 9 a.m. Banged on the door until I let her in. She was crying. I hadn't seen her cry since the funeral. She said, "If you sell this place, it's like he never existed." And that was that. Cameron's brows drew together. Do you believe that? Shelley stared at the bar's worn wood. No, but I believe she believes it. And I couldn't be the one to take away the thing she clung to. So I told the developer no. Then I spent the next 6 months wondering whether I'd just thrown away my one clean exit. That's... Cameron exhaled. Big. Yeah, Shelley said. So there's your secret. Top tier, deep-cut content. Happy? Cameron didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was careful. Do you regret it? Ask me on a day the roof isn't leaking, Shelley said. That's the most honest answer I've got. Cameron nodded slowly. Okay, my turn. You don't? No, I do, Cameron said. I promised. She took a breath. A brand offered me a sponsorship last year, 6 figures. Shelley's brows shot up. For what exactly? Gold-encrusted yoga mats? Travel gear, Cameron said. Suitcases, backpacks, winter jackets. The pitch was I spend a year on the road using just their products, making videos about how their stuff supports my lifestyle. Beautiful places, aspirational narratives, the works. Sounds like your thing, Shelley said. I said yes, Cameron said quietly. Signed the contract. Got the first payment. Flew to Iceland to do the first leg of the campaign. I lasted 3 weeks before I realized I wasn't traveling anymore. I was performing travel. I woke up each day and thought in shots and captions, not experiences. I couldn't even feel the wind without wondering if it looked good on camera. Shelley listened, saying nothing. 4th week, I had a migraine so bad I puked in an airport bathroom, Cameron went on. I ghosted the brand rep, turned my phone off for 4 days. When I turned it back on, my inbox was full of panic and annoyance and one very calm email from my agent that basically said, if you bail on this, your career is over. And, Shelley asked. And I bailed, Cameron said. Sent back the money, broke the contract. My agent dropped me within a month. That's why I panicked in the grocery store. Not because of a video, because there was no plan B, and I'd set fire to the only bridge I knew how to walk. Do you regret it? Shelley asked, using her own question back at her. Ask me on a day I'm not sleeping in a bar in a town I didn't mean to end up in, Cameron said. Then she added more seriously, no, I regret how I handled it, but I don't regret not turning myself into a walking advertisement. They looked at each other for a long moment, 2 lives that had both hit a fork in the road and chosen the option that hurt in the short term and left the future a big question mark. Congratulations, Shelley said quietly. You're as dumb as I am. High praise, Cameron said, a half smile tugging at her lips. Very high, Shelley agreed. Cameron yawned then, catching it in the back of her hand. It softened all her edges, made her look younger. You should sleep, Shelley said. You're deflecting again, Cameron murmured. Maybe I don't want to talk about whether I secretly admire your ethical meltdown, Shelley said. Cameron's brows lifted. Do you? Go to sleep, Shelley ordered. Cameron chuckled, but her eyes were already drooping. Bossy. Always. Wake me if the roof caves in, Cameron mumbled, pulling the blanket up to her chin as she slid more fully onto the booth bench. Her feet bumped against Shelley's thigh. She didn't move them. Shelley sat there, watching, as Cameron's breaths evened out. She'd seen plenty of people sleep in this bar before, passed out, slumped over tables, half-conscious on stools. None of it had ever felt like this. None of it had made her chest ache, just a little, with something that felt suspiciously like protectiveness. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, for the first time all night, Shelley felt calm. She woke up with a start, neck screaming in protest. At some point, she'd slid down in the booth herself, head tipped back against the wall, feet braced against the opposite bench. The lantern had burned low and gone out, the generator's hum barely audible. The storm's roar had shifted, less angry, more sullen. Rain still fell, but the wind had gone down a couple notches. The first gray smear of dawn was bleeding into the windows. Cameron was gone. Panic flared sharp and irrational in Shelley's chest. She sat up too fast, vision going spotty for a second. Cameron? From the direction of the bar came a muffled curse, followed by a clank. Jesus, yeah, I'm here. Cameron's voice floated over, followed by her actual face peeking above the counter. Her hair pointed in 12 directions at once. I was trying to make coffee without waking you. I failed. Shelley's heart slowed, embarrassment pricking at the nape of her neck. You scared the hell out of me. Sorry, Cameron said, looking genuinely contrite. You looked dead asleep. I figured I had a 10-minute grace period to figure out how to use your terrifying industrial coffee machine. Shelley slid out of the booth, stretching, joints cracking. You touch the espresso wand and it'll bite you. Noted, Cameron said. I've located the regular drip machine. I think I've made a truce with it. The bar in morning light looked different. Softer, dust motes floated, lazily in the beams cutting through the slatted blinds. The worst of the storm's mess was visible outside. Branches down, trash cans tipped, tide higher than normal, but the breakwater was intact. Shelley hopped behind the bar, bumping Cameron gently out of the way with her hip. Move? You're gonna break it. You need to work on your gratitude, Cameron said. I'm trying to make you breakfast adjacent. Coffee isn't breakfast, Shelley said. It is if you drink enough of it, Cameron replied. Shelley flipped a couple switches, measured grounds, poured water with the kind of precise muscle memory that didn't require thought. The smell hit them both a minute later, rich and familiar. Cameron closed her eyes to inhale. Okay, I forgive all past sins. Even the Sazerac comment? Shelley asked. Never that, Cameron said. That's my villain origin story now. They stood shoulder to shoulder, waiting for the machine to finish, their arms brushed, bearskin against bearskin. How'd you sleep? Shelley asked. Like I was being periodically shaken by thunder, Cameron said. But also, weirdly well. Specific, Shelley said. You? Better than I have in a while, Shelley admitted. Then, because that felt too naked, she added. The storm-white noise helps. Liar, Cameron said, but it was gentle. The coffee finished with a final sputter. Shelley poured 2 mugs, slid one across. Their fingers brushed again, and this time, neither of them looked away as quickly. Storms mostly passed, Cameron said, glancing out the front window. Roads might still be messy, but I should probably... She trailed off. Probably what? Shelley asked, even though she knew. Head back, Cameron said. To the inn, to wherever I'm supposed to go next. The words sat between them like a restless animal. Yeah, Shelley said. You probably should. Neither of them moved. I don't want to, Cameron said suddenly. Shelley's heart did something painful and unhelpful. Not my call. I know, Cameron said. I just don't want this to be a one-night weird limbo thing we never talk about again, she swallowed. And I also don't want to be the one who pushes for more and makes it weird. It's already weird, Shelley said. We got trauma-bonded over pickles and leak buckets. There's no normal version of this. Cameron huffed out a shaky laugh. Fair. Shelley stared into her coffee. Steam curled up between them like a question. Look, tourists come through here all the time. Some of them are great. Some of them are nightmare people who complain that the local beer tastes too local. They all leave. That's the deal. I know the script. You're the first one who's made me want to rewrite it, and frankly, that's pissing me off. Cameron's eyes went very wide. That's not what I expected you to say. Me, either, Shelley admitted. Thunder muttered somewhere far out to sea, half-hearted now. I don't have a script for this either, Cameron said. My usual thing is flirt, banter, maybe a hookup, then leave before anyone can ask me what I actually want. I don't want to do that to you. I don't want you to be another anecdote I tell myself when I can't sleep. Remember that time with the storm and the hot bartender I ran away from? You think I'm hot, Shelley said, because her brain had apparently chosen that one word to latch onto. Cameron let out a strangled sound. That's what you're taking away from this? Noted for the record, Shelley said, fighting a grin. Cameron set her mug down with exaggerated care. You're infuriating. Likewise, Shelley said. They both took a breath at the same time, as if synchronizing. Okay, Cameron said. Outrageously reckless thought. I stay another day. Storm cleanup, small-town post-apocalypse vibe. You teaching me how not to die in ankle-deep floodwater. I push my next stop by 24 hours. We see if this feels like something that exists in daylight too, not just in lantern light and thunder. Shelley's first instinct was to say no, to clamp down. to build the wall back up brick by brick, 24 hours. That's all Cameron was offering. Not forever. Not even a promise. Just a little more time in the bubble. What happens after 24 hours? Shelley asked. I don't know yet, Cameron said. Maybe I leave and you never see me again. Maybe I come back next storm. Maybe you finally use a day off and meet me 2 towns down the coast. I can't promise a tidy ending. I can only promise I won't ghost you. Shelley waited. The bar, the imagined heaviness in her mother's voice if she heard about this. The look in Cameron's eyes, open and a little scared, but stubborn. Storm cleanup's a bitch, she said finally. Could use the free labor. Cameron's mouth broke into a smile that hit Shelley square in the sternum. Is that a yes? Yeah, sunshine, Shelley said quietly. It's a yes. Cameron let out a breath she'd clearly been holding. Okay, cool. No big deal. Just casually rearranging my entire trajectory for a grumpy bartender. Totally normal. You can still go if your anxiety starts screaming, Shelley said. I'm not going to chain you to the dishwasher. Cameron stepped closer. My anxiety's already screaming. It just happens to be screaming, don't screw this up. They were standing closer now than they had all night. Only a foot, then inches. Shelley could see the faint smear of mascara under Cameron's left eye, the tiny nick near her ear where she'd clearly cut herself shaving. Shelley, Cameron said slowly, like testing a fragile bridge. I'm going to do something stupid now. You usually do, Shelley replied, but her voice was low, unsteady. Tell me to stop if you don't want this, Cameron said. This what? Cameron reached up, fingers trembling just enough to give her away, and cupped Shelley's jaw. Her thumb brushed the corner of Shelley's mouth, feather-light. Every nerve in Shelley's body lit up. You sure? Shelley managed, even as her hands were already finding Cameron's waist, fingers splaying over damp t-shirt fabric. No, Cameron said. But I want to anyway. She kissed her. It wasn't some cinematic dip and sigh moment. It was messy and human, Cameron's nose bumping Shelley's, their teeth knocking once, both of them pulling back a fraction to get the angle right. Then it clicked. Heat poured through Shelley like somebody had opened a valve she'd forgotten she had. Cameron's mouth was soft and insistent, tasting of coffee and the ghost of last night's whiskey. Shelley pressed her back against the bar without meaning to, hands sliding under the hem of Cameron's shirt to warm skin. Cameron made a small sound in her throat that went straight to Shelley's knees. For a few seconds, there was no storm, no bar, no dead dads or abandoned brand deals. Just this, contact and relief, and the dizzying realization that she'd been lonelier than she knew. Cameron pulled back first, breathing ragged, pupils blown wide. Her hand was still on Shelley's face, thumb brushing along her cheekbone. Okay, she whispered. Definitely not just a storm thing. Shelley's answering laugh came out hoarse. You sure? Might want to run a second test. Cameron grinned against her lips as she leaned in again. Peer review? Exactly, Shelley murmured. The second kiss was slower, deeper, less shock, more intention. Shelley let herself savor it. Not just the physical rush, but the way Cameron relaxed into her, the way their bodies seemed to find a fit without effort. When they finally broke apart, foreheads resting together, the bar felt different. The world outside still dripped and steamed. Inside, something had shifted on its axis. Breakfast, Cameron said suddenly. Shelley blinked. What? You said breakfast would make your day better, Cameron said, a little breathless. Let me cook, or at least supervise while you cook and try not to burn anything. I don't burn things, Shelley said out of habit. Cameron arched a brow. You told me you make raccoon fries. Those are a lifestyle choice, Shelley said. And fine, you can help. But if you touch my knives with your influencer hands, I'm taking that as a personal insult. Cameron laughed, stepping back fully but not far. Deal, chef. Don't call me that, Shelley said, but her lips wouldn't stop curving. Storm Queen chef, existential bartender, Cameron mused. You contain multitudes. Keep talking and you can mop too, Shelley warned. Totally worth it, Cameron said. They moved then, almost in sync, Shelley heading toward the small kitchen through the swinging door, Cameron following at her heels. Outside, the sun began to push through thinning clouds, light catching on puddles and broken branches and the wide, restless ocean beyond. Inside the breakwater, a new kind of storm had started, one made of choices and chances, and the terrifying, exhilarating possibility of more than one night. And for the first time in a long time, Shelley didn't feel stuck. She felt in motion, not leaving, not yet, but not entirely rooted in place either. Balanced, precariously, between the bartender who stayed and the tourist who ran, exactly where the lightning had decided to strike. The kitchen smelled like old grease and possibility. Shelley shoved the swinging door open with her shoulder and flicked on the overhead light. It buzzed reluctantly to life, painting everything in unforgiving fluorescence. Metal prep tables, scarred cutting boards, battered fryers, functional, not pretty. Glamorous, Cameron said, stepping in behind her. Do all great love stories begin in rooms that smell like fryer oil? Don't flatter this setup, Shelley said. Health inspector would have a coronary if he saw my spice shelf. Cameron peered at the labeled containers. Garlic powder, smoked paprika, dried thyme, a mystery jar simply labeled, "Do not use. Why?" She pointed. What's that? Experiment gone wrong, Shelley said. I keep it there to remind myself I'm not infallible. That's deeply on brand, Cameron said. Shelley snorted and headed for the walk-in cooler. You're getting eggs or nothing. Last delivery was 3 days ago. Eggs are perfect, Cameron said. I actually can cook, by the way. I'm not completely useless off camera. We'll see, Shelley muttered from inside the cooler. Cameron lingered in the doorway, watching. The door framed Shelley in harsh white light, her shoulders broad under her t-shirt, hair twisted up in a messy knot. She moved with that same practical certainty she'd had all night, like she always knew where everything lived. Stop staring, Shelley's voice floated out. You're weirding out the produce. Rude, Cameron said, but she didn't deny it. Shelley emerged with a carton of eggs, a package of bacon, and a slightly wilted bunch of scallions. We're in business. I can make something with that, Cameron said at once. Do you have cheese? What kind of question is that? Shelley went to the fridge by the line and hauled out a block of cheddar. This is America. Good. Then I'm making scrambled eggs with bacon and scallions and cheese, Cameron declared. You can be my sous chef. Shelley arched a brow. You walk into my kitchen and demote me. Think of it as collaboration, Cameron said. You keep me from burning down the building. I provide creative direction. You are insufferable, Shelley said, but her mouth softened. She handed Cameron a pan and started pulling out bowls and utensils. Cameron rolled up her sleeves, eyes lighting the way they had when she talked about travel. Okay, she said. First rule, no high heat. Scrambled eggs deserve respect. Medium low, we go slow, we stir constantly. Wow, Shelley cut in. You sound like me trying to train new barbacks. Respect the glassware. Exactly, Cameron said. Eggs are emotional beings. Shelley grinned despite herself. You're such a dork. You kiss this dork, Cameron shot back, cracking the first egg with one fluid tap. Shelley's hand stuttered for half a second. Heat pooled low and immediate at the reminder. Regretting that more every second, she lied. Cameron's smile went crooked. Liar. They fell into a rhythm that shouldn't have worked but did. Shelley chopped scallions with quick, efficient motions. Cameron whisked eggs with a focus that made her curls bounce. Bacon sizzled, coffee steamed. The storm outside slowly downgraded from biblical to merely aggressive. Hand me the salt, Cameron said, wrist moving lazy circles in the pan. Shelley did, their fingers brushing. You always narrate your cooking? I always narrate my life, Cameron said. Side effect of turning yourself into a brand. You start hearing captions in your head for everything you do. Local bartender begrudgingly lets ray of sunshine invade her kitchen. Comedy and carbs ensue. You really gonna tell the internet about this? Shelley asked before she could stop herself. Cameron's stirring paused. No, she said, just like that. I meant it last night. This one's mine. Relief hit Shelley so fast she almost swayed. Okay. Does that bother you? Cameron asked. That I'm drawing a line. No, Shelley said. It helps, actually. Helps what? Helps me believe this isn't just research for your memoir, Shelley said. Or some season arc about how the influencer learned to love the simple life. Cameron flinched, then nodded. Fair? You get to keep poking at my worst instincts. I'll keep shutting them down. Team effort, Shelley said. Exactly. Cameron nudged her with an elbow. Now shut up and get plates. These eggs are a masterpiece. They ate standing up at the stainless prep table, because chairs felt like too much commitment. The eggs were good, creamy, salty, scallion bright. Shelley said nothing for the first few bites. Cameron watched her like she was waiting for a Michelin star review. "Well?" Cameron demanded finally. "They're fine," Shelley said. Cameron's face fell. "Fine?" Shelley let the pause stretch just long enough to be cruel, then smirked. "Fine as in if you'd cooked like this during the storm. I'd have proposed on the spot." Cameron sagged against the table in exaggerated relief. "You asshole!" "Hey, you wanted honesty," Shelley said. "I'm honest about cooking and poor life choices." "Good," Cameron said, bumping their shoulders together again. "Because I'm about to make one." Shelley froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. "Define poor." "I'm texting the inn to extend my stay," Cameron said. "Another night, maybe 2, before I chicken out." "Bold," Shelley said, heart pounding a little too fast. "You think they'll have room?" "It's shoulder season," Cameron said. "Unless the storm stranded a tour group, I'm fine." She wiped her hands, pulled her phone out of her back pocket, and stared at it like it might bite. "No signal," Shelley reminded her. "Cell towers get moody when the weather throws a tantrum." "There's Wi-Fi at the inn," Cameron said. "If I can get back up there." "You're gonna walk?" Shelley asked. Cameron looked down at her sneakers, then at the puddles visible through the back door's foggy glass. "You just taught me not to drown in a drainage ditch. I can take the lesson for a spin." "Flawless logic," Shelley said dryly. "You could give me a ride," Cameron added casually, "if you wanted to make sure I don't die for real." "Or I could," Shelley conceded. Their eyes met. The air between them shifted, less charged now, but denser. Real. "Then it's settled," Cameron said. "We tackle post-storm breakfast, then post-storm damage assessment, then you drop me at the inn, I secure my room, shower, existentially scream into a hotel pillow, and come back here to help you scrub seawater out of the floorboards." Shelley's lips twitched. "You rehearsed that speech?" "In my head 4 times, Cameron admitted. "Yes." "Okay," Shelley said. "Let's go see how ugly it is out there." The town looked like a hangover. Branches littered the street. A trash can lay on its side in the gutter, lit a few yards away. Sand had blown up from the beach to dust the boardwalk and sidewalks. Water pooled in the usual low spots, tinged brown by soil and debris. The sky was that particular washed-out blue that only shows up after a night-long storm. Like someone had taken a deep breath and exhaled all the color. Cameron stepped carefully over a downed "no parking" sign. Blanket now traded for a borrowed hoodie of Shelley's that hung slightly too big on her. The sleeves swallowed her hands. She pushed them up with effort. "Very apocalypse chic," she said, spinning once in the middle of the road. 10 out of 10 would film a cinematic montage. "You film anything, I'm confiscating your camera," Shelley said, locking the bar's front door behind them. "You can't confiscate artistic expression," Cameron protested. "I can when it's on my sidewalk," Shelley said. "Local statute." "Does this town actually have weird laws like that?" Cameron asked, falling into step beside her. "Yes," Shelley said. "But they're mostly about fishing quotas and where tourists can and can't park their golf carts." "Golf carts?" Cameron groaned. "Of course." They walked uphill toward the inn. Windmere Beach sloped gently from the main drag down toward the water, which meant the uphill was more psychological than physical. But the puddles were very real. Cameron hopped from dry spot to dry spot like a kid. "You sound like you did that a lot," she said, as Shelley expertly avoided a hidden pothole disguised as a puddle. "Here?" "Yeah," Shelley said. "Storms were the only days Dad let me skip school sometimes. He'd bring me down here, and we'd listen to the weather radio and count lightning strikes. Mom hated it." "She sounds like a worrier," Cameron said. "She's a realist," Shelley corrected, "which is what worriers call themselves when they want the moral high ground." Cameron laughed. "True, my mom realistically thinks every plane I get on is going to fall out of the sky." "She know you're here?" Shelley asked. "She knows I'm out east," Cameron said. "She doesn't know about the storm yet. If she did, she'd be in a car driving here with a go bag, while simultaneously calling every local hospital to ask if a Cameron with curls had been admitted." Shelley smirked. "Sounds caring." "Smothering," Cameron said. Then, more softly, "and caring, both." They reached the small hill where the Coral Crest Inn sat like a pastel crown. The building was an old beach house turned lodging. its faded teal siding scraped shiny in places by the storm. A few shingles littered the yard. One of the rocking chairs on the front porch had tipped. "Looks intact," Shelley said. "More than I can say for my curls," Cameron muttered, pushing hair off her face. "Your hair's fine," Shelley said, automatically. Cameron blinked, turning to her. "Oh my God, you almost gave a compliment without sarcasm." "Don't get used to it," Shelley said. Before Cameron could reply, the inn's front door opened. Marla, the owner, a woman in her 60s with cropped silver hair and a perpetually suspicious expression, stepped out, arms crossed. "You alive?" she said, like it was an accusation. "Apparently," Shelley said. "You?" "Been worse," Marla replied. Her gaze slid to Cameron, then back. "You kept her in there all night?" "She kept herself," Shelley said. "Storm got bad," Marla sniffed. "Good. Didn't feel like filling out paperwork for a drowned tourist." She pointed a knobby finger at Cameron. "You pay for the room?" "Yes, ma'am," Cameron said quickly. "And I'd like to extend it a night, if that's possible." Marla's eyes narrowed. "Storm made you sentimental." "Storm made me practical," Cameron said. "Roads might still be messy," Marla grunted. "Cash or card?" "Card," Cameron said. Marla eyed her. "Room comes with breakfast. Unless I decide you're annoying, then it comes with toast." Cameron glanced sideways at Shelley. "I'm scared." "You should be," Shelley said. "She takes her waffles seriously." Marla snorted, but there was the ghost of a smile near her mouth. "You go inside, Sunshine. I'll process your card. Shell, you keeping your place open today?" "Depends what the power's doing," Shelley said. "Might do limited hours. Locals'll need a drink, but I don't want to encourage storm gawkers." "Good," Marla said. "We got enough idiots taking selfies with downed trees." Cameron raised her hand. "I solemnly swear not to selfie with property damage." "You better not," Marla said. "Shell, tell me if you do." She squinted at the borrowed hoodie. "You keeping her?" "Not a dog, Marla," Shelley muttered. But she felt her ears heat. "Shame," Marla said. "Dogs cause less trouble." Cameron grinned. "I can sit and stay if that helps." Marla snorted again, more loudly this time. "Go shower, tourist. You smell like Storm and Bar." "Yes, ma'am," Cameron said, backing toward the door. She shot Shelley a quick look, some mix of shy and smug and nervous. "I'll be back down in, like, an hour, 90 minutes. "I'm not going anywhere," Shelley said. "Good," Cameron said, and slipped inside. Marla watched the door close behind her, then turned to Shelley, eyes sharp. So, Shelley echoed. "You look like you didn't sleep," Marla observed. "There was a storm," Shelley said. "There's been storms before," Marla said. "You usually come in here after, bitch about the roof, drink my worst coffee, and go home. Today you brought home the storm." "That's a weird metaphor," Shelley said. "I'm old," Marla replied. "Metaphors are what I got left. That girl trouble? She's—" Shelley searched for the right word. "Temporary," Marla grunted. "Most interesting things are. Just don't forget temporary can still hurt like hell if you pretend it's permanent." "I know," Shelley said. "You don't," Marla said, not unkindly. "But you will. Try not to bolt just when it gets good. You're too much like your father that way." "Dad didn't bolt," Shelley protested. "He bolted in his head," Marla said. "Stayed here for his kids in the bar, but he never left the place he thought he'd be. Don't do that. If you're staying, stay for real. If you're leaving, leave for real. This halfway misery, waste of a perfectly good life." Shelley swallowed. Marla's bluntness was legendary. It also tended to hit where it hurt. "I'm just seeing what happens," Shelley said. "Good," Marla said. "Just remember, seeing what happens isn't the same as refusing to make a choice." She jerked her chin toward the inn. "You come collect your hurricane in an hour. I want my porch clear by then." "Yes, ma'am," Shelley said, unable to stop a faint smile. An hour and change later, Cameron came back down the steps smelling like hotel soap and looking like an ad for emotionally overwhelmed but trying. Her hair was damp, curls tamed into loose waves now, hoodie back on. A duffel bag hung from her shoulder. "Okay," she said, approaching. Room extended. Shower taken. Pillow screamed into. "What's next, boss?" "Don't call me that," Shelley said. "And next is checking on my neighbors." They spent the next 3 hours walking the block, helping where they could. Shelley righted trash cans, peeled soggy flyers off windows, checked on the elderly owner of the souvenir shop next door. Cameron followed, doing whatever she was told without complaint. Lifting branches, wringing out soaked mats, fetching bottled water from the bar's stock. "You sure people want help from a stranger?" Cameron whispered, after they'd spent 20 minutes in the back of the bait shop clearing a minor flood. "Today," Shelley said. "If you've got hands and aren't an insurance adjuster, you're welcome." Cameron glanced at her wrists, flexing her fingers. "Good. My hands needed something to do besides scroll." There were awkward moments, sure. A couple of locals gave Cameron the once-over, assessing her with that small-town radar that clocked "not from here" within 2 seconds. But Shelley was by her side, and people trusted Shelley. By association, they let the tourist help. "This is weirdly grounding," Cameron said at one point, carrying a crate of cleaning supplies out of the hardware shop. "You expected glamour?" Shelley asked. "I expected boredom," Cameron corrected. Storm aftermath always looked like sad B-roll when I watched coverage on TV. It didn't occur to me that there were tiny, practical things that made a huge difference. The older lady down the street cried because you fixed her mailbox. "It was in the middle of the road," Shelley said. "Someone would have hit it." "Still," Cameron said, "you thought to put it back." "You're very easily impressed," Shelley said. "By you?" Cameron countered. "Apparently." By the time noon rolled around, sweat had joined storm damp on their skin. The sun was out in earnest now, burning off the last of the mist. Windmere Beach was already starting to buzz again, kids splashing in unavoidable puddles. 1 or 2 early riser tourists snapping photos of debris like it was charming. Shelley scowled at that last group. "Vultures." "Better than influencers," Cameron said. "They might be both," Shelley replied darkly. They headed back to the breakwater, both moving a little slower. Inside, the bar felt like home base. Shelley flipped on the lights fully, now that the power was back for good. The place looked surprisingly okay. No major leaks besides the one in the back room, no broken glass. "You opening today?" Cameron asked, hopping onto a stool, stretching her lower back. "Yeah," Shelley said. "Short hours. Locals will want to gather, compare storm stories. It's like a debrief. Helps everyone switch from 'we survived' mode back to 'we live here' mode." "Does it help you?" Cameron asked. "Sometimes," Shelley said. "Sometimes it reminds me why I hate people." Cameron smiled. "Honesty. We love to see it." "What about you?" Shelley asked, leaning on the bar. "You planning to do anything with today? Work? Call your mom? Doom scroll?" "Don't rush me," Cameron said. "I'm still processing the idea that I voluntarily cleaned a bait fridge." "You'll get an award from the town council," Shelley said. "Medal of Horror." "Put that on my resume," Cameron muttered. Then, "I'm gonna text my mom later, tell her where I am. Maybe not about the full lock-in with possibly ill-advised kissing part." "Good call," Shelley said. "And I should probably post something vague about taking a break from posting," Cameron went on. "My DMs are already probably chaos. People worry when their content machine goes quiet." "You don't owe them constant proof of life," Shelley said. "I know," Cameron said. "But disappearing without warning is also a dick move. And I've done enough of those." "You figuring that out is step 1, Shelley said. Cameron sighed dramatically. "Gross. Growth." They fell into a quieter lull then, each lost in their own thoughts. Shelley did a quick once-over on the bar, wipe down surfaces again, restock napkins, make sure the emergency candle stash was back in its drawer. Cameron scrolled her phone, thumb moving faster than her face suggested she was comfortable with. "So," Cameron said eventually, setting the phone down, "can we talk about what this is? Before we get swept up in the afternoon rush. And then it's sunset, and then it's tomorrow, and my anxiety has built 5 different disaster scenarios in my head." "Subtle," Shelley said. But her heart kicked up again. "Yeah, we probably should." Cameron's fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on the bar top. "Okay, ground rule. No pretending last night didn't happen. No, ha-ha. Wasn't that a weird little storm bubble? That would make me want to walk into the ocean immediately." "Agreed," Shelley said. "I don't do fake amnesia." "And no grand declarations," Cameron added quickly. "No, I'll change my whole life for you speeches. That's movie bullshit." "Also agreed," Shelley said. "Great," Cameron said. "So we're left with the middle ground, which I suck at." "Join the club," Shelley said. Cameron took a breath. "All right, here's where I'm at. I like you. A lot. In a way that feels quick and reckless and inconvenient, and also like the first genuine thing I've tripped over in months. I want more of this. Conversations, storm cleanup, breakfast eggs, making you roll your eyes. I don't know what that looks like long term. I don't know if it can be long term. I just know 24 hours doesn't feel like enough. Shelley swallowed. Okay. Where are you at? Cameron asked, voice barely louder than the ceiling fan. Shelley stared at the worn patch of bar between them for a moment, then forced herself to look up. I like you, she said. More than is strictly reasonable after a night and a morning. You're loud and chaotic, and your jokes are terrible, but I haven't felt this awake in a long time. You make me think about things I shoved way back in a cupboard and labeled, "Do not open." And that makes me want to slam the door and throw the key into the ocean. But it also makes me curious about what happens if I don't. Cameron's eyes shone. So, mutual, whatever this is. Yeah, Shelley said. Mutual thing. Cool, Cameron whispered. Terrifying, but cool. Shelley's fingers curled against the bar. I can't promise anything dramatic. I can't say I'll sell the bar and move to Phoenix, or that I'll suddenly become the kind of person who likes airports. That's not realistic. What I can try is making space for something that isn't just me and this building and the ghosts. Cameron nodded slowly. That's more honest than 80% of the relationships I've had. You were dating cowards, Shelley said. I was dating people like me, Cameron countered. Half in, half out. Shelley inhaled. So, no grand gestures, no timeline. But if you want to come back, you come back. Not just when there's a storm. You don't have to warn me, but you do have to text. She put extra weight on that last word. No ghosting, from either of us. Agreed, Cameron said at once. Full heart text policy. And, Shelley went on, the next words feeling like they scraped on the way out. Maybe I take a day off sometime, not today, not next week, but soon. I drive out of town, meet you somewhere that isn't here, so this doesn't become the bar thing in my head. Somewhere neutral. Terrifyingly neutral, like Wilmington. Wilmington is your idea of terrifying, Cameron said, but her voice was shaking a little. That's adorable. Shut up, Shelley said, but there was no heat in it. That's my offer. Limited time, 3-month window before I chicken out. Cameron's smile broke over her face, like the first real sunrise. You just made a future plan that involves leaving town. Alert the media. Don't you dare, Shelley said. Metaphorical media, Cameron said quickly. Just the one in my messed up brain? Fine, Shelley said. They looked at each other. It felt like a decision. Not a forever one, but not nothing. Cameron reached over the bar, palm up. Phone? Shelley blinked. What? Phone, Prescott, Cameron said. We're doing the ancient ritual where we exchange numbers and pretend that's not a huge deal. Shelley rolled her eyes, but handed it over. Cameron unlocked her own and typed with purpose, thumbs flying. A moment later, Shelley's phone buzzed. Unknown. If you ghost me, I'm telling Marla you said her coffee tastes like sadness. A second later, unknown. Cameron, storm hazard, egg enthusiast, Sazerac victim. Shelley couldn't stop the snort. She saved the contact under Cameron before she could overthink it, then typed back. Shelley, if you post my face without consent, I'm blocking you and all your burner accounts. Cameron's phone lit up. Her grin went even wider. You think I have burner accounts? You definitely have burner accounts, Shelley said. Cameron held a hand to her heart. I feel seen and attacked. Good, Shelley said. The bell over the door jingled then. A couple of regulars shuffled in, faces flushed, rain jackets half-zipped. Bars open, one of them called. Limited menu, full sarcasm, Shelley said, automatically sliding into her role. Cameron finished her coffee in one long gulp, then hopped off the stool. I should get out of your way. Go, post vaguely, and call my mother and have a small panic about the fact that I just moved a hypothetical Wilmington meetup into my calendar. You actually put it in your calendar? Shelley asked. Color-coded and everything, Cameron said. Don't worry, I set it to tentative. Good, Shelley said. Cameron leaned over the bar, stole a quick kiss that tasted like coffee and something sweeter, then stepped back. I'll be back later. Text me if you need anything, or if the number of people mispronouncing drinks reaches a dangerous level. That's every day, Shelley said. Exactly, Cameron replied. Use me as a support hotline. She backed toward the door, hands shoved in her hoodie pockets, eyes never leaving Shelley's until the last second. Go before I change my mind, Shelley grumbled. You won't, Cameron said, with unnerving certainty. You like bad decisions too much. Then she was gone, bell jingling in her wake. Shelley turned to the waiting regulars, heart still thudding in a rhythm that had nothing to do with caffeine. What'll it be, she asked. Got anything strong? One of them said. Storm shook my nerves. Don't worry, Shelley said, reaching for a bottle of bourbon. I've got something for that. As she poured, her phone buzzed on the shelf below the register. Cameron. Marla just offered me toast. Plus a lecture. Think I'm officially part of the community now. Then, also, I miss you already. This is disgusting. Please pretend I didn't say that. Shelley stared at the screen for a second, then typed back without thinking. Shelley. Too late. Screenshotting it in my mind forever. She slipped the phone back into her pocket, a tiny smile tugging at her mouth as she slid the drink across the bar. Outside, the ocean moved through its endless motions, indifferent to human catastrophes and connections. Inside, the breakwater settled into its post-storm rhythm. Stories traded, glasses clinked, ghosts a little quieter for now. Shelley moved through it all with new awareness, a tiny, stubborn thread pulling her gaze toward the door every so often. Not in the old way, that resigned, lonely glance. In a new way, expectant. Like the storm hadn't ended, it had just changed shape. And somewhere up the hill, in a faded teal inn room, a sunshine tourist was lying on her back on a too-soft bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the same stupid, impossible pull. Temporary maybe, messy, definitely, but real. For two women who'd built their lives on opposite extremes, staying, running, that was more radical than any grand gesture. It was a start. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do after a storm is let yourself believe in beginnings again. The end.